Good morning. I'm out here in the swamp with the cypress and the palmetto and the swamp maple, the red maple as it's also called, Acer rubrum. See some of the reddish leaves there. They're all in bloom. It's spring. I'm out here because I'm taking a little hike, filming a little for you guys. And also because I want to show you these mushrooms. These are bracket fungus. This is the early growth stage, and you see them a little older as we go down the log. And I get really excited when I see bracket fungus because I know when I see one that I have a ready-made stove I have a ready-made lamp, and I have a ready-made fire. All from a locally abundant and renewable resource. If I were to pick one of these mushrooms here off, it's not going to harm the mycelial network, the roots. It's just a fruiting body, and it will likely grow back in the same spot or a slightly different spot. So once again, renewable resource, it's abundant, and it's incredibly handy. I don't have to carry a stove with me. I know I have the ability to make fire easily, but usually there's only one, maybe two different types of shroom or bracket fungus on a down tree. And this brings up a good point. Where do you find bracket fungus? Where do you find these mushrooms? Well, don't make fun, but at first I was looking on live trees with very little success, as you can imagine, because fungus eats dead trees. So you look for them on dead trees. If you see fungus on a live tree, it's not long for this world. And while you can certainly have plenty of success on a downed tree like this, I like to look in a different place. When you're looking for mushrooms, especially bracket fungi, it's a good idea to listen for woodpeckers, because a tree has natural defenses against fungus when it's alive, but once the bark is pierced, that can give fungi a foothold. And while this tree is still alive, some fungi has managed to find its way right there. And that's still all growth phase, so it might be a little difficult at first glance to see what that mushroom is, but we've got a little older specimen down here, and I bet you can tell what that is. That is a beautiful reishi, Ganoderma lucidum. And these two guys right here are going to be a massive reishi cluster. And I'm going to keep this location quiet right now. This is a dying swamp maple. I know it's a swamp maple because of the leaves. It still has green leaves shooting out of it for the spring. But it's been partially toppled by a storm, and that exposed its roots and cracked it enough that fungus made its way in. And once the mycelia get going, it's only a matter of time before this tree is done in. Here we have a dying oak. You can see a little bit of mini shell fungus developing on the bottom. Not big enough for me to work with right now. But I want to show you this. Look at this epiphyte, this air plant here. Looks just like we're in the rainforest here. This mushroom has little fine hairs on top. Let's see if they'll take a spark sitting right on the log. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an ember right on the log. Whoa, gnarly. So here's an example of a really stout pine knot. This is where the pine resin is retreated into the tree. If you break these off, they're the last thing to rot out. You usually end up with this pickaxe type configuration. And I'm going to bang it up here real quick against this tree. So here's termites galore. And this makes an excellent digging tool because the resin makes it really hard. Get in there real fast with this thing. If you were stuck out in the woods, you could use this as a defensive weapon, offensive weapon, throwing stick. Excellent tool, obviously. Dig for grubs, do real fast digging. Here's termites. You can get in there, there'll be a ton of grubs in there. Just an excellent ready-made tool. And when you're done at the end of the day, if you don't need it anymore, it burns like a champ in your campfire. Man, look at all this pine bark. All this is sloughed off from a stand of pine trees, just falling on the ground in a big heap for easy collection. And the reason I would be interested in this pine bark is because pine bark is an excellent insulator. Pine trees have a habit of firebombing or napalming their neighbors. Their resin is, of course, very flammable. Their pine cones are very flammable. The needles are flammable. They are set up to burn. In fact, the cones open up when they're on fire. So they're set up to reseed after they've cleared out all the competition. But the pine trees survive. Why? Because their bark is made up of this papery thin layered material, and so it insulates the tree and keeps it alive through the burn with only minor damage most of the time. So I know it insulates the tree, so I know it can insulate me. So if you had nothing else, this wouldn't be a bad choice at all for a bedding to keep you from going into hypothermia via conduction. Check these out. Sword ferns. Wrench. And mushrooms make such nice coals. Look how nicely that stays together, keeps the heat. Yeah, that's getting hot. Yowza! Oh, goodness. Tucked away from everybody on their daily commutes.